Let's then move on from 15 to our consensus number 14 among the Minnesota Wild prospects. Caedan Bankier, who is on the verge of graduating from the list, but also a guy that I lump into a group that I talked about last week, where it's just, this is kind of a year where we're going to be swinging him up or down pretty emphatically. Last year, like, plenty of excuses and reasons that a lot of people didn't perform in Iowa, and he certainly wasn't among those that was a problem. But this is going to be a year where there's going to be a decent crew down there. See how he can play under Cronin. I'm just interested to see if he can take that next step, because I think we're all pretty big fans of him, generally speaking, you know, Mateo aside, with the lone 19 ranking. And wow, a lot of us threaded the needle here. Me, Z, and Pavel, all 14. But do you guys feel similar? Like, obviously we're all clustered here in the mid-teens, so we all feel a similar way about him, but same rationale, or do you look at him differently when you stack him up against the other prospects?
I think for me, it's just a lack of a ceiling. Like, I think he's nearing kind of where he'll top out, which is, for me, is probably a bottom 6 tweener. Not in a vein that's too different from a guy like Mikey Milne. But I think for me, the reason I bumped him up just a little bit over Mikey was I think there's maybe a hair more offensive upside, and I think he can do a little bit more on both ends of the ice, and might be able to maybe chip in a little bit more on the score sheet than what we'll ever see out of Milne. But he's kind of a player I waited for a long time to kind of take that next step, and it just never seemed to get there. And I'm starting to wonder if there is, or if this is kind of is what he is at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but it's just, I just keep thinking, like, if the last 2 years, even if that Iowa team was like middle of the road, like, could we see another 5 to 10 points out of him and just like some better looks defensively? Because there would be other matchups that would have like just helped these guys be able to develop properly. So I do like his overall game. I don't know if he's going to be like NHL, like a talent in the NHL, but yeah, I hope that that Iowa is even just mid tier this year, because then we can actually gauge some of these guys, because we just have so many question marks because of the last 2 years, or like their development just gets a little bit hampered, and yeah, go down our rankings, or maybe their ceiling is now just kind of lowered because they haven't had that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I still like Caedan Bankier a lot. Obviously, like, I think his like realistic projection is a guy that's gonna get like games in the NHL if he can. The thing is, like, when you have someone his size and as smart as he is, he does have a little bit of offense in him, but like his calling card is just the fact that he's one of those players you kind of like just throw over the board in any situation. I think there's going to be NHL franchises that are always going to find or have a spot for him in their just in their organization. I mean, like, it is always going to be tough to gauge anyone that's been playing in Iowa the last 2 years. That being said, I mean, year one, he missed the first like 20 games or so. Comes in, finishes top 6, top 7 in scoring on the whole team. Last year, started off really slow, got hot in the middle of the year, cooled off by the end, but still was putting up some decent numbers. And he's still been right around just under like half a point per game in the AHL. He's a player that, like, last year I was wondering if he would get a game or two with Minnesota as like the injuries started piling up. Same thing this year. I'm probably gonna have the same kind of expectation. Like he might be a guy that like is on the short list for a call up at some point. But yeah, I mean, 22 years old, probably again, like Brett said, probably pretty close to what he's gonna be like long term NHL wise. But I still just think there's an NHL player in there. It's just looking like now, it's like, is he going to be someone that plays games, or is he going to be an NHL regular? Still young, only been pro for 2 years. Obviously, that last year we saw him in the WHL just absolutely popped, makes that World Juniors team, and like is a factor in his limited minutes. But again, I remember when they drafted him, like the words that Judd Brackett used. There's like low maintenance, like every coach is going to love him. Like just whatever you need him to do in any situation, he can do it. He can play center. He can play on the wing. He can kill penalties. He can score the power play. Like he can do everything. It just might be like full-time AHL, but gets NHL games. So he might be a tweener, but we'll see. I think this is going to be a year. I'm like weirdly, I'm not going to say confident in Iowa, but I do think they're going to be like organized and less of a complete gong show night in, night out.
I mean, they have to be, right?
Like,
if
yeah,
not,
if
it's
they
like,
want to
what the
like
hell
live,
is going on?
if they want to live to see the next day, like Craig Cronin will demand that from them. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like. But I do think, and I think Hobby mentioned it, like this is definitely gonna be a big year for him as far as just like what is actual projection. Like this is we're gonna be probably have a little bit more confidence in like what he's gonna be. But I still believe in the player. I think there's an AHL player in there, and despite the fact that, like Brett said, like maybe we don't know what his actual ceiling is, I see he's such a versatile player with so many tools and like the ability to affect the game in multiple ways. So I usually like to bet on kids like that, and still will.
There we go. That's number 14, Caedan Bankier.